Earlier this month, Edwina Froehlich passed away, and although she had no medical background and no political clout in the beginning, she was one of the leading medical reformers of our time, because Edwina Froehlich helped to found the Leche League along with a handful of other suburban housewives 50 years ago. And at the time, these women were shunned by the medical establishment. They were considered crazy by many doctors. They had no data to back up their claims. All these women had was their intuition and their common sense, which told them that it was better to raise a child naturally rather than feed it an industrial product like baby formula. And now, after 50 years, we finally have studies which show that, in fact, thousands of children are killed by feeding baby formula in the United States alone every year, and that baby formula does lifelong damage, mental and physical damage, to some children. In the 1950s, though, this data didn't really exist, and so La Leche League led a lonely battle for many years, trying to convince society of the dangers of this product. And I bring up this organization and Edwina Froehlich for a few reasons. First of all, just because the establishment is telling you something doesn't mean that it's right. If your common sense and your intuition say otherwise, then maybe you're correct. And maybe you should follow your intuition regardless of what the experts or so-called experts are telling you. Edwina Froehlich could have easily given up. She could have said, I don't have a medical background, I don't have any ability to determine what's the truth, and my doctor's telling me that this formula is fine, so why don't I just use it? But she didn't do that. She stood up for what she knew was right, and she freed herself from a very dangerous product. And after that, she didn't say, well, I can't fight these big multinational corporations, and I can't fight the entire medical establishment. I can't do anything to change public perception. I'm just a housewife in suburbia. Instead, she started a grassroots organization, and that grassroots organization eventually caused a shift in the consciousness of our entire nation. In the 1950s, less than a third of women breastfed, and today it's more than 2/3. And this is largely due to La Leche League. That was by far the leading organization that caused this shift in the public consciousness. It certainly wasn't the political establishment, it wasn't the medical establishment, it was this grassroots organization. And there's one more very important point in this story, because 50 years after the founding of this organization and 30 or more years after the data was collected to prove the enormous dangers of baby formula, there's still no warning on baby formula, there is still no prescription required for baby formula, and the medical establishment still continues to be what I would really say is borderline criminally negligent in warning people about the true risks of baby formula. They still give out samples of baby formula in hospitals to new mothers. What kind of message does that send? And, the multinational corporations that market baby formula still operate with total impunity around the world in most cases. My point here is that even when a terrible problem is proven and exposed and accepted by everyone, no one really disputes that thousands of children are killed each year by baby formula. You may argue about how many thousand are killed every year, but no one disputes the facts at this point. Although they did dispute the facts for decades, at this point no one disputes it, and yet this problem still has not been addressed. There's so many people talking about healthcare reform and socialized medicine. Nobody's even trying to pass a simple law requiring a warning label on baby formula, or requiring a physician's prescription for baby formula, or requiring some decent studies to determine exactly what the risk of lifelong health impairment is from different types of baby formula. Ultimately, you are responsible for what happens in your life. When you rely on someone else to take care of a problem for you, when you expect the government to take care of a problem for you, or your religious leaders to enlighten you, or the medical establishment to take care of your health, and you don't take personal responsibility for those issues, maybe you'll turn out okay and maybe you won't, but you give up your power. Well, if you don't do something yourself, then there's a good chance nobody's going to do anything.